Sorry about that. I ended my own session there. Look at that. Just noticed. Cap looks like it's dipped in tar. I've never seen that before. Interesting. Your treble cap. So we'll take a look at that. We'll take a peek and see what we can see. I'm noticing on the pots, I'm sorry, this is just literally tip of the spear stuff. Just some contemporaneous notes that I'm making to myself. I can look back and refer. But your pots have some corrosion. I don't know if this is what they refer to as white rust, but or some old pot cleaner, perhaps, that somebody sprayed on there. And I think that's what it probably is. Somebody went in here and serviced it. That's why I said it felt kind of slick. And surely these cloth-covered wires are a bit stained. They look a little oily. Well, I have a little trick to get that out and to bring back the color of these wires. And then if you look back here on your pilot lamp, you have some of that stuff. This stuff is toxic, so if you scrape it, you don't breathe that stuff in. You just clean it outside. So the next video we're gonna cut to, we'll show some ESR readings on these caps. Now again, like I was saying, it's not the end-all be-all test for these, but I already know these are bad, and I know it's time, so I will show you the readings. We'll talk to you soon. Well, and I really need to do that, what do you call it? That screen and screen thing? That's not what it is. It's that is what it is. Right? Anyway. Bill and the rest of you meow meows. Let's take a peek. Let's take a peek at these guys. Wow. And by the way, if you want to test the metal in a very slick way of your amp tech, if you're auditioning them, so to speak, if you're interviewing them, if you're recruiting, you can ask them, what is the rarest brand of filter cap they've ever seen in a blackface Fender amp? And if they don't mention these GE caps, that would be suspicious. Well, not entirely, but it's kind of true. If you're working on enough of these, then you'll see these on I see these probably 2 to 4 or 5 times a year. And you'll see these in some of the old blonde amps. Really cool. I did a 1961 Super, I think. If I recall, these were in there. Several other early blackface amps like 64, 65. I haven't seen these in any after 1965. So it was just straight Mallory's all the way across. So, but these guys are incredibly rugged for the most part. And these guys are bulging on an anode end, which is what you would expect. And for the purpose of this test, in order to not have it skewed or invalidated by the presence of an in-circuit resistor, I went ahead and popped off one end so we can get a clean test. Won't be influenced by any other component there on this filter pack, which was put together on the 35th week of 1965. And also the proper way to remount, or actually to mount the filter caps, is to fully remove this board, clean it off. You can preserve the little oil markings and also the stamp when you're doing that. And actually just clean out all the old solder and just mount your components like they were fresh, Just put them in there, bend the leads, trim them, solder them, and just reinstall. And obviously, I would just go ahead and reinstall these decoupling resistors here. And also, you'll see the balance resistors here on the other side. And you want to make sure these are, and look, check that out. You could probably see that bulge there. Boop. Oh, you're not looking at me. Talking about this bulge. Take a peek at that. So there's a vent under there, and you actually have some of the electrolyte in here starting to make its way out. Pretty soon it'll bloom, and that's a disgusting thing to behold, let me tell you, because it looks like some old cauliflower from 1925. It's disgusting. So take a peek at that. Now you want to make sure these are perfectly matched, or as close as you can, because these distribute the load across these two primary filter caps, which are placed in series in order to overcome a working voltage limitation. These are top out at 350. So if you would have these as your primary filter cap, rated at 350, it's going to exceed that by 100 volts DC. And then unloaded, it's going to be significantly more. Now, let's get this little ESR meter. Again, the caveat is it's not the only way to test if these are bad, but I already know they are. And it's time to get these guys out of here. You're jeopardizing a very expensive transformer and some original GE short bottle tubes, which I'll show you in another cut. And it's not worth it for a handful of parts that are relatively inexpensive. So let's get this meter going. I don't know if you guys can see that. Hopefully you can. All right. There's one. Not the best. Whoa, lady. Yes, it is open circuit. Not too good. Let's get that out of there. Whoa, whoa, whoa now. You could hear the relay in there, like it wants to discharge the cap. Very slippery, these alligator clips. And this one's creeping up. So I'm gonna get these guys out of there. Big old freaky leakies. My God, my knuckle hair looks awful. Doesn't look like that in person, or does it? This cap almost went up 30 microfarads past its stamped rating. Take it easy, lady. And let's get this guy here. Yeah. So these guys got to go. And I'm looking at your beautiful tube set. You have some, your transformers are clearly marked. Very little surface corrosion, and I'll get these in. This output transformer here, Schumacher 606 designation, 1965, the 12th week. Your choke is the 13th week of 1965. And your power transformer is the 32nd week of 1965. And your reverb transformer is the 26th week, 1965. Very cool. So we're gonna replace these caps and your resistors. Then what we'll do is do a proper electronic test and see if these old tubies are still good. We'll run them through the tester, and then do the obvious thing, which is use our ears. Now I've already got your thoughts on the matter. It wasn't giving you any issues. Mainly, the driver behind your visit was to get rid of that ungrounded power cord, which was repaired with a little bit of electrical tape prior. Look how cool that is. We should take a peek in there. Somebody's been in there already. Oh, it's just a little tension driver, little friction fit. Very cool plug-in. Look at that. I like it. So let's get these suckers swapped out. We'll check back in after. Bye-bye. And we're back. Testing these caps out of circuit. I've disconnected the ground. See, it's just floating in space there. And I'm just using a very sensitive ESR meter to validate the need to do a complete recap on the main board and on the bias board adjacent. So let's get going here. We want 0.0 something. So the caps drifted upward about 11 microfarads. And the ESR, it's essentially become a resistor. So let's move on over. It's going to start measuring because we're still on ground, but we have 2 anodes coming off of this cap right here. So let's get started with this section. All right, this guy here as well. This will be part of your reverb recovery. Let's measure the other side. This is actually part of the reverb recovery and the trim oscillator. This guy is horrendous. 4.1. All right, let's switch on over. We'll move to channel 2 cathode bypass cap, and actually this one also serves as a shared cathode for channel 1. Let's look at the first section here. And this one's not too bad either, but might as well get them out of there. So let's look at the bias filter cap, which is just a single section. This is 50 microfarads, so we take that into consideration along with the voltage rating when we're looking at the ESR. So here we go on the anode, which is grounded, because we're looking for reverse polarity to filter a negative DC supply. There we go. A little slippery silicon. All right, let's see what she's going to give us here. Yeah, so it'd be good to change this as well. Let's get that sucker out of there. Top of the morning, Bill. And, the rest of you meow meows out there. If this gets published, we'll see. Well, Bill, this is just some photo documentation of the restoration of your untouched 1965 Fender Twin Reverb. A beautiful amp. I expect to be interrupted any moment now. And off camera, I have my giant 80-watt Weller heating up. So I might as well show you guys, or show you what a chassis solder joint looks like, or at least the process. So this is how I do it. Other guys have their best practices and preferences, and I don't take that away from anybody, but this is just what works for me. So your mileage may vary, as they say. So I'm gonna move forward here with a little bit of work. Pardon the camera mount shaking, if it does. I'm gonna go ahead and clear a spot on a chassis. And as you can see, I already mounted the new cord. And here's our ground lead. So pardon the old mid-digit knuckle here as I get in here, and I'm gonna create a small rough area on the chassis just to assist with some adhesion for our solder. And then I'm gonna go ahead and clean it off with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. I'm gonna use 99% over here at the shop. The stronger the better. There we go. Look at that funk. It's amazing. So, Bill, you were saying you purchased this about 40 years ago. Awesome. So there was only one other guy in here, and all he did was remove the old death cap, which is that cap that runs from the neutral to the chassis. And what it does is it scrubs out, you know, RF and other sources of noise that are floating about the room. Cleans up the power line. So those are not rated for that. Those, you could just sub that in for a tone cap. And if you're gonna use those, and I do suggest that you do, you're gonna want to use a Y2 class cap, and it looks like this. And I will be installing this for you off of the neutral. And this is just what it looks like here. This is what's meant to do that job. When these fail, they fail open. They don't fail as a short. There's no death in this cap. It's not going to put the neutral onto your chassis. Fry your lips up like bacon when you go to sing. That's not what this does. So, having said all that, I think the iron's about ready to go. And generally speaking, I'm using a relatively thin solder. I use the old Eutectic blend. I like it, and I think I went over that in another video, and this isn't the right venue for it. But I will go over it again in more detail. What I do, since this is a little bit thinner gauge, I just got a good deal on this. When it comes to these chassis joints, instead of just buying a new spool, I'll just twist it up a bit. It does the same thing, right? We're just looking to increase thickness so I can get this onto the chassis as soon as possible. And I went ahead and pre-tenned this lead here. I'm going to go ahead and tin the joint, the tip of my iron, because it looks rusted, having been on for about 5 minutes. This thing's ridiculous. It's a furnace. You could literally see, the solder and the flux just flashing off when I'm applying it. So what I'm going to do now is get this lead out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and give us a nice little pool to work with. It shouldn't take long. This guy's a beast. There we go. That's literally about the size you need. That's it. So, and they say this should be the longest lead off of your power cable. Should be the last thing that pulls out in the event of a catastrophe. But when you're doing a proper grounded cord installation, you could use the old socket as a jump point, but it's best just to go straight to the fuse tip and into the power switch. All right. This is how I'm going to orient this. And that's it. It doesn't need to be a giant puddle. But I will clean that up, and I'll show you guys how I make it look after. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb, and I'm really putting some torque on that. It's not going anywhere. You don't need a lot, especially if it's got good purchase on a chassis via those little abrasion marks, and also just from having cleaned the surface. You don't need a lot. So I'll just go ahead and tell you what I do. Let's get that little nib off right there. And then I'm going to come back and, yeah, nice. I'll come back with a small wire brush that I use specifically for this purpose. And what I'll do is, after I clean this up, But what I'll do is I'll abrade the surface to knock back the brightness. I don't want it to be so reflective. If you look at the other joints here, you'll see that they're much more dull by comparison. Like, look at this guy. And I want to match that. Not that anybody cares, but I do. Just don't want it to stick out. I want it to look like it came this way. There we go. And then I'll go through and clean off all the old crusties off the other ones that the guys left at the factory, just because I don't like the way it looks. Call me crazy, but I don't. Clean this guy off here. There we go. I like it. And that's about it for this part. Though I'll probably break this thing off the mount just to film the next segment here. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Oh, man. This is, I'll tell you what, this is cathartic today. Not to get all personal, but just got some devastating news about my dad. I'm just going to throw this into the ether. I'm just not ready to talk about it, but I'll just say that if you have any issues with your family or friends, or if you have any issues with somebody, if you got any beef, if you're out there beefing on the streets, like, make it right. Like, humble yourself and make it right. You know, just humble yourself. You don't need to be right. The relationship is more important than anything else, and it took me a very long time to figure that out, to where I actually cared about something more than just being right, you know. Because time is all you got until somebody tells you you have less of it. So hope you guys are well out there, Bill. Not to be morose, because just your amp came at the right time, you know. But I look forward to showing you guys this thing. It has the beautiful metallic shelled GE caps on the opposite side of the chassis over in the doghouse. The old filter pack board. And it's got all the old cardboard tube Mallories that you would expect to see, the little multi-sections. And they're all very high ESR. A couple of them are turning into resistors. Though this thing is taking it in stride, it has the original tube set. The old short bottle 6L6s. Just a lovely amp. And I've got it set up on the bench right now. I'll be running a test signal through it. And I have it attached to, obviously, the current limiter, and I have a shop tank reverb pan, rather, and we'll just go through the whole thing and test it out. But Bill, yeah, I'll give you some snapshots of the measurements, and then what I'm seeing and what they indicate, just to validate my opinion and suggestion for just doing a complete recap and service for this, and really touching nothing else. As you would expect, none of the little blue Ajax caps, the little blue molded guys are leaking. None of your ceramic caps are leaking. The amp's in remarkable condition. It just needs to be brought up to date, which we have with respect to this cord and the way I'm going to be handling wiring the primary here. And we'll get her safe to operate. And in particular, the Mallory, the cap sitting off of your bias board is very leaky. So I'm just really surprised that she's behaving as much as she is. But she doesn't need a lot of work, and I think you guys will like looking at a a pristine example of, you know, Fender's golden years. And that's what this really is. You know, I saw another famous tech who took an amp just like this, the same vintage, and hot rodded the thing, and much to the chagrin of half of his audience who found it offensive. But it's all about what the customer wants, you know. Like I'll make suggestions, but I'm not here to fight and win. You know, it's about the customer at the end of the day. I wouldn't want to do that because this amp is iconic. It does a certain thing, and the thing it does is pretty. I would say it's unique to this particular family of amps. And they're lovely amps, you know. So I don't know how many times I can close this segment out, but hope you guys are well out there, and update soon, Bill. Bye-bye. Quick update. So before I'm rudely interrupted, let me grab a chopstick of discernible color and appearance. This is your new power cord right there. And your beautiful new chassis solder joint. Let's get you in there. I'm gonna knock a little bit of that reflectivity down just to match the rest of it. After, I'm gonna replace these screen grid resistors here with some nice wire wound low mass units. Your filament, or actually your heater wire, because this is an indirectly heated set of power tubes. Your heater wiring here is now straightened out. It was kind of bent in before. You can see here I've bundled the hot and the neutral together. I ran them as a twisted pair, and then I used the old existing wire to secure them against the back of the chassis there, underneath the lip, keep them out of the way. And here we have the proper way to do it, where the hot is going straight to the tip of your fuse, and then the neutral's running over to the opposite side, or the cold side of your main switch. This little blue guy here is your new Y2 rated, or Y2 class neutral cap there. It's your power line cap. It's going down to ground, and it's coming again off the neutral wire, and it's going to scrub any sort of RF or other junk coming out of the wall. And this is the proper cap to use for this job. Fender traditionally uses one of these types of molded caps, these beautiful caps, in a 0.047 microfarad value to do the job. It's not rated for it. So, beautiful. These are the Mallory caps. These are your electrolytic caps that I was referring to earlier. This one here being on the bias board, and I have the ends lifted here so I can take some measurements for you and show you. I had to create a few new solder joints here as these were just about cold, and this one typically, these guys right here, this little 100 ohm right here, typically cracks because it's straight across these two eyelets here, and the board always develops a bit of a deflection here because of all the little guys coming out from underneath it, and these usually break. But you're in business with this guy, so that's good news. So I will continue to run through as we move along. All right, here we go. Post test. There we go, just listening to the old reverb. So check it out. Let's get the old signal generator going. It's pretty funny. Pretty annoying. Let's go a little lower. What is that? Sitting around 300 hertz. Just check for any noise. Nice. Like it. Check lower register. Oh yeah, the low end's great. Healthy caps. Nice clean input. Alright. Like it. Beautiful. Go ahead and test your normal channel. I've already done your first input off camera. The second one here. Nice. We'll check that out. No worries, mate. Awesome. All right. Be back.